Let's go to the United States now for reaction to Donald Trump's comments in calling the Ukrainian president a terrible leader, a dictator without elections. Colonel Tom Brewer is a former Republican senator for Nebraska. He served for 8 years and stood down at the last election. He was also chair of the Government, Military and Veterans Affairs Committee. Good evening to you, Colonel Tom Brewer.
Good evening.
I must ask you what you make of the comments of Donald Trump aimed at Volodymyr Zelensky.
Well, I woke up this morning to kind of a barrage of news, and my view is a little different because I've been there 6 times. I probably understand the people, the culture, the history better than most Americans by far, and I was troubled because it doesn't help us to win the war by saying these things, but you have to understand that part of what Trump does is he tries to confuse and set up a scenario where he can have all the parties in an uproar, which I think he's successfully done that. And then somehow through that, he works his deal. But in this case, I think he's broke the heart of an entire nation that didn't need to be broken because they've been allies and friends. If you travel to the Ukraine, they're grateful. They will stop you on the street and thank you for their support. Afghanistan, Iraq, all the places I've been, they never did that. And so we should be helping the countries who want us to be there and want to say thank you for what you're sacrificing.
So should Donald Trump back off? He's making very public comments. He's forcing President Zelensky to respond. And you could argue perhaps Zelensky should be responding in a different way. Clearly, J.D. Vance, the vice president, thinks Zelensky's handling this awfully when it comes to trying to appease Donald Trump. You know, how do you deal with someone like Donald Trump? This is not the way to do it, argues J.D. Vance. Who needs to do what in this instance, do you think, so that we're not talking about a spat between Zelensky and Trump, and instead we are either realistically talking about peace talks or about trying to help Ukraine advance the end of this war?
Well, I think everybody probably needs to step back and take a breath because, again, there's a lot of things said. Trump has surrounded himself with some individuals who I think are very anti-Ukraine. That's too bad. But there are those that are champions for the Ukraine. And I mean, if I could say focus on one person who I think is the stable factor that is included in all of these things is General Kellogg and where he's going. General Kellogg is an exceptional individual. I think he's going to systematically force a reasonable deal. I think right now there's just a lot of talk going on and a lot of things being thrown out, and people are taking that for the reality. And I don't think we're close to what really is going to happen because, you know, however you shape this, if one side is supported by Iran, China, North Korea, that's not the side we should be helping. That's the side we should be trying to make sure is in the worst position.
But yet Trump seems intent on holding peace talks with Russia. The ground was laid in their peace talks in Saudi Arabia yesterday. We know that there will be further talks and that Trump and Putin will meet at some point, probably in Saudi Arabia too. So it looks like this is a path which Donald Trump is insistent on entertaining. He shouldn't be doing it, you argue, but he is. And so what do you think of that?
It has to be the nuclear factor that there's, talks and some degree of normality so that things don't go too far on that one particular level. But if you look, what does Russia provide to the world or to us, the United States? Nothing of value. And by taking away sanctions, we hurt everyone. And so the talks, I hope, are productive in the sense of maybe having some security with the nuclear side of things, although I think to a degree Russia's a paper tiger when it comes to their nuclear weapons. I think they use them for threats, but they know it's the end of the regime if they were to ever use any of them. But, maybe just to have a conversation about things, that'd be one thing, but how can you have a resolution to a situation where two countries are at war without bringing both parties in to get
Yeah.
information
He
and to
shouldn't
work
be
out a reasonable
excluded.
end?
Look, do you condemn the comments of Donald Trump in laying into President Zelensky, both last night and again on Truth Social? Would you condemn those comments?
Well, I think these comments were unnecessary. I think they did not help right now to get a better solution to what we're trying to work toward here. But with what I said initially too, that Donald Trump does that to stir things up and to force that deal, because he's all about that master deal, and I hope somehow that's part of a plan. And sometimes what he has is layered, and you have to go so far. Sometimes he does it off emotion, but I would watch closely actions, and that's going to tell us the truth. As long as the weapons keep coming. Again, I've been an advocate to change what we're doing with weapon systems. I think we have failed in not providing a system like the Tomahawk that can reach deep into those airfields where the bombers are launching from, that are striking with the glide bombs. You take them out of the picture, and this war would be a much different situation. If they had better weapons sooner, because we gave enough weapons to the Ukraine to survive, but not enough to win.
Right. Can I ask you how the average American feels about this war? How much of this is Trump playing into his domestic crowd? What is the appetite for this war, or indeed the belief of the average American in helping Ukraine finish this war on terms that are, perhaps not favourable to them, but are suitable, are enough to satisfy President Zelensky?
Well, our country's split. There's no two ways about it. The election showed that it's almost a 50-50. It's a situation where, though, I think the 50 that are on the Republican side, a majority of them want to see Ukraine win. They want to see a resolution that's reasonable, and to continue provide support too. And some of that is just inherent in the American nature. You look at our Revolutionary War. How much different is that? We had a small country that was trying to exist, and it had to fight for a number of years to have independence. There's things that Americans just feel like this is an opportunity lost if we don't protect this democracy. But how do you do that? How do you do that in a way so that all the players are somewhat happy? And you're never going to get them all there. But I think there's support for Ukraine. I don't think he's reflecting the general feeling of most Americans. But what I fear is that if there's enough negative back and forth, that may sway some in a negative way toward Ukraine. And I hate that now, because I've from day one, I've tried to do everything I could to support the Ukraine and go there and be there and help with humanitarian aid and anything they needed. And if you go there, your attitude is so much different, because you just feel like you're part of that effort that they're having to win the war.
Understood. Look, Colonel Tom Brewer, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate your point of view on this, and the frankness of your assessment of the situation as well. Tom Brewer there, Colonel Tom Brewer, former Republican Senator for Nebraska. Thanks for being with us.